Folks, I don't see anyone coming down the hall there, so we'll begin. My name is Bruce McCallum. It's my pleasure to head up the veterans group we have here. And I got, where's Tracy? Is Tracy still here?
She's coming. She's making more copies.
Good. Anyway, Tracy's the one who arranged this. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. It's all hers, so I think we should acknowledge her when she comes in. But in the meantime, I'll introduce our speaker, Denis Jana, who is going to take us back to June 6th of 1944. I was in diapers at the time, probably. I'm kind of kidding there a little bit. I remember the war very well. Here we have another person coming in. Anyway, our speaker comes to us with a wonderful background. He's studied all the major activities, military activities of the Second War. Today he's going to be discussing the invasion at Normandy. Well, we'll have to acknowledge Tracy a little later. Anyway, thank you very much for coming. I'm sure it's going to be delightful.
Thank you very much, sir.
You betcha.
Thank you. Well, everybody, good afternoon. And a Happy New Year. Tracy's going to pass out some more programs here. Actually, it's just a sheet here to give you some background information about D-Day. Of course, you all know about it because you lived it. Can everybody hear me? Right. Very good. Well, I want to take you back to June 6, 1944, as General Eisenhower. Now, this is a portrayal. Of course, Ike had not much hair. If you remember Ike as president as well. So someone said to me, "You've got too much hair on." That's right. But I hope that won't bother you. I want to take you back to a time that you all know. I was 3 years old on D-Day. That's all. So what do I know, you see? I've studied it. I've been to Normandy. I picked up sand. I was walking on Omaha Beach. Some of you have been there? Anyone been to Omaha Beach? Not in combat, of course. But you know what I did? I knelt down one knee and I went into the surf and I picked up sand and water and it drizzled down my hand, down my elbow, and back into the surf. And for a moment, I was on D-Day. I felt it. I feel it now. And it was almost like being struck by lightning. Do you remember the old story in the Old Testament? It was the New Testament about Saul, who was going on the road to kill Christians. And he was struck by lightning. Remember that? And he became known as Paul. Right. Well, I had a deja vu. I had a feeling. My God, I've been here before. What is this? Really, that's how I felt. You know, we can only feel what we want to feel. But that's how I felt. And so I went all up and down the Normandy coast to all the places where the men were landing, especially at Omaha. That's where I was with my wife and my daughter. And oh my gosh. After seeing all of this and going through all the museums, and it's all there, and I touched that sand, I can still feel it. Well, I went home and I wrote a play called One Man's Decision. And that's where I'm basing this play, one-act play, called One Man's Decision. That Ike had to make the incredible decision to go or no go. You know that story. It was up to him, nobody else. He was the Supreme Allied Commander of SHAEF. Supreme Allied Commander. Wow. So he had to make that decision. What a heavy load, because he knew he was sending men to their death. He knew that. He didn't want to do that, but we had to do it. We had to free France and the world from the Nazi terror. And you know what they did. not to mention the Holocaust. How could something like that happen in our modern, supposedly civilized world? But it did happen, so we were there to free it. All the Allies, the British and the French and the Canadians, gosh, and the Americans. So that's the setting that I want to bring back to you. And I'm going to use this map, by the way. This map I found at Normandy in a French town that was the first town to be liberated in World War II and in the D-Day operation by the British. The British were able to free this little town in Sword Beach. And I went in there, and it was a little cafe, and there was a nice lady there, and I saw this map. My gosh, it was on the wall. I said, how can I get one of those? And she said, well, there's one left. I said, I want it. So it was all folded, of course. So one of the Marines was able to put this on the board. So this is, looks like it's been through the war. But that's how this came about. So, So as I say, this is all based on my play, one-act play called One Man's Decision. Now I'm wearing an Ike jacket. Remember this? Huh? Of course you do. My heavens. Ike started to wear it, and everyone wanted to wear one. That was in SHAEF, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. Now you can see on my left shoulder here is the patch, which corresponds with this here of the SHAEF insignia. Now, what does this really mean here? Gosh. Well, the sword represents justice and freedom, the flaming sword. The black area represents Nazi Germany. The colors here represent all the flags of the Allied forces that attacked at D-Day. And the blue area represents the freedom of the skies, once that the Luftwaffe had been cleared and we were in a free Europe. So this insignia is very important. So while I was doing my play, I didn't have this at all at the beginning. And someone said, you've got to get it. You've got to get the Ike jacket. Now we're going back a good 20 years. So I was able to get this Ike jacket. It's an original. I didn't get this at Walmart. That's for sure. And I wrote to the Eisenhower Library, and they sent me the insignia patch here. And then oh my gosh, it's coming loose here. Holy smokes. I got to get that fixed, don't I? So, I hope it stays. No, it's falling off. Right. You know what we'll do? We'll just take it off. Someone introduced me today. I can't get this off here. Some things just don't go right sometimes, do they? This is the first time this ever happened.
It's on your right foot.
Oh, I see it there. Right. And I just can't get this thing off here because it's caught. It's caught. I got it. Well, you know, Ike usually had lots of medals and lots of ribbons. Then at times he had nothing on with his insignias and his ribbons, nothing. Just the 4 stars. Now, he was made a 4-star general in 1943 by the Joint Chiefs, by Congress, of course, and by FDR. And we all know who FDR was, right? Of course. After D-Day, shortly thereafter, when we were going to win, he became a 5-star general. But at the time of D-Day, he was a 4-star general. So we want to get everything correct here, right? Ike smoked a lot. Now, I happen to have Lucky Strikes. Do you remember the Luckies? That's right. You were a Camel man. Is that right? Well, I'm going to smoke them dry. Okay, because Ike was a smoker. Sometimes 7 to 8, 10 packs a day. All the time. Smoking all the time. Well, can you imagine what he had to do? Not to mention about 10 to 15 cups of coffee per day. I mean, he had on his shoulders the weight of D-Day. It's amazing how he was able to do it. How could one man be in so much strain to go through this? But he did. So I'd like to share with you this, what I have here. This is an original. This is dated June 6, 1944, Tuesday morning, Los Angeles Times. This is an original. I saw this in an antique shop, and I went to grab it right away. I paid a few dollars for it, but it was well worth it, wasn't it? I'm afraid to take it out of the package because it's going to all fall apart. It'll crumble. So we have to have it. But look what's on the same page is the map of D-Day and the landings. So this is something very special to have. It'd be hard to find this now. I'm sure you could, but God knows where. So I'm just going to leave it here. If you want to come afterwards and hold it, and it's a bit of history. This is the real, not a copy. The real thing. Wow. I want to read for you an excerpt from this book entitled Eisenhower. And it was written, of course, by Stephen Ambrose. Here's a picture of him. Stephen Ambrose was a historian, and he interviewed Ike 20 years after D-Day. To the day he interviewed him. And a lot of that interview and what he did and the writings are in this book. But I want to share with you, of course, you already know what type of a person Ike was. So I'm just going to read a few paragraphs from the foreword. Okay, just a few. I think it's important to understand about him. And we all know, of course, and later became president for 2 terms. So this is a quote. Dwight Eisenhower was a great and good man. He was one of the most outstanding leaders of the Western world of this century. As a soldier, he was, as George C. Marshall said at the end of the war, everything that the U.S. Army hoped for in its finest products. Professionally competent, well-versed in the history of war, decisive, well-disciplined, courageous, dedicated, and popular with his men, his subordinates, and his superiors. His leadership qualities also included a high degree of intelligence, integrity, commitment to basic principles, dignity, organizational genius, tremendous energy, and diplomatic ability. As a man, he was good-looking, considerate of and concerned about others, loyal to his friends and family, given to terrible rages, which he learned to control, ambitious, thin-skinned, and sensitive to criticism, stubborn, and inflexible about his habits, an avid sportsman and sports fan, modest but never falsely so, almost embarrassingly unsophisticated in his music, artistic, and literary tastes, intensely curious about people and places, often refreshingly naive, fun-loving. In short, a wonderful man to know and to be around. Nearly everyone who knew him liked him immensely. Many, including some of the most powerful men in the world, to the point of adulation. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to get in there. I give you General Dwight, David Eisenhower. Gentlemen, ladies too. Tonight I will make the decision alone. If we go or no go on the attack at Fortress Europe in Normandy, I will make the decision alone. I will contact and discuss it with my generals. But I will make the decision alone. If we fail, it'll be my fault. Nobody else's. But we shall not fail. So what I'd like to do first is to go over the map and the battle plans and tactics of D-Day. I'd like to go over with you my chiefs. And remember, these are all Allied forces from the British forces. All my chiefs are Allied forces from England. We are on a concerted effort. We are all working together on this endeavor. Here is a flowchart of my chiefs. Of course, I am the Supreme Allied Commander. My Deputy Supreme Commander is Chief Air Marshal Tedder. Now, my Commander-in-Chief of all Allied forces in the Air Force is Lee Mallory. My Commander-in-Chief of all land forces will be General Montgomery, and I'm glad to have Monty with me. My commander of all forces in the Navy will be Admiral Ramsey. However, I do have, doing First Army will be Omar Bradley. Now, Brad and I were at the Point together. We graduated together. So I'm glad to have Brad on my staff. Now, I'd like to outline for you the strategy. And there it goes. We can't have this on the floor, can we? So, here is the strategy. We worked this plan out. And we're right at the core. This is June 5th. Now, I had sent out the men on June 4th, but I had to call them back. Remember? Because the seas were too rough. We could have failed. So I called half of the ships back. By the way, we're going to have 5,000 ships attack this area here in the Normandy beachheads. So they've called back. We've stopped the invasion for 24 hours to see how the seas will be and the weather. That's the biggest problem we have at the moment is the weather. So this is what I intend to do. We have codenamed these 5 beachheads for the landings that will take place. We have Utah and Omaha, which is in the American sector, and Normandy. Gold will be the British sector. Sword, the British sector, I should say the Canadian sector. And again, the British troops at Sword with a contingent of Free French troops. I want to stress the importance that this is an allied effort. We are all working together. No matter where we're from, we are working together to defeat the enemy. Now, I intend, and I've ordered the Air Force, the Army Air Corps, to attack this area here prior to the landings. Now, they must see this strip of land here by the surf here to drop their bombs. Now, we are hoping that the weather will cooperate and that the pilots and the bombardiers can release their bombs to create craters in this whole area, about 60 miles wide. Because when the men get out of their landing crafts, they have a place to hide. And these craters will help them a great deal. Now, 3 months ahead of Normandy, I ordered our Air Force, the Army Air Corps, to attack the hinterland here in France. Now, this was greatly objected by the French and some of the Allies. We had no choice. We had to attack this area here in Caen and about 20 to 30 miles, 50 miles inland from the beachheads. Why? Because we had to destroy the rivers, the ships, the tanks, whatever was in this area here, they were to be destroyed. Now, obviously, we're going to be hitting civilians, and we will kill civilians. I know that. But this is war. There's no choice. I didn't want to do this. But we have to we have to stop the railroads, the marshalling yards, the canals, the airfields, all in this area here that the Germans had taken over. So with a heavy heart, I ordered the bombings to take place 3 months ahead of Normandy. Now, I'm glad that I still have General Patton. Of course, you read in the papers what General Patton did. He slapped an enlisted man, and the press got a hold of it, and they wanted his head, so to speak. They wanted him fired, and I was under great pressure to fire him. But wait a minute. General Patton. So I called him into my office, and I said, listen, George, I never want to see you do anything like this again. Anytime you say something or anything you do like this again, you're back to the States. And I want you to apologize to the units, to them. I'll give you another chance. This is the last chance. So he did apologize in a roundabout way. But I accepted it, and I put him in charge of a fake army in this area right here. Now, this is the closest point between France and England, called the Pas-de-Calais. All right? Now, the Germans think that we're going to attack at Calais in France here, and of course we're not. We're going to attack at Normandy. We fooled them. Hitler believed that we were going to attack in this particular area, the closest point, which is about 20 miles. However, he did have Field Marshal Rommel take charge of the planting of obstacles and mines in the Normandy, thinking that we would also attack there. Hitler believed that this would be a diversionary at Normandy, and the real attack would take place at Calais. How did we fool him? Well, it took a lot of ingenuity. We broadcast in the open the attacks that we were planning. We gave them all the plans, but they were false plans. And then we had a very great spy, and he helped tremendously. We also developed a fake army, and we put General Patton in charge. And the Germans were afraid of him. My God, Patton's over here in England. And so the deception worked. We had fake aircraft on the ground. We had fake tanks. We were sending messages in the open, and Hitler fell for it. Wow. Now, prior to the landings, if I give the way to go, I'm going to have the Rangers in the Omaha sector attack at this area here at at the Pointe-à-Claque here, Pointe-à-Hawk. Now this area here is about 100 feet, maybe even more, from the shoreline. So the Rangers are going to leave early on June 6th. They're going to climb up these 100-foot cliffs and attack the gun emplacements right up in this area, because they will have a first-class attack on our troops getting off the landings, their landing crafts. So I'm going to have them attack early prior to the landings. Now I'm also going to have the Major Howard will take control of these special aircraft coming in, and they're going to do their landings right in this area here by a famous bridge which they have codenamed Pegasus. Now this area here had to be taken wholly because we don't want the bridge to be destroyed. This is essential because when we have the British come ashore, they're going to cross over on this bridgehead right in this area here at Pegasus, and then come right in and force right into France and then right into Germany. So this area here is vital that we secure this area 100%. Now, I've been told that the weather is so bad, the worst ever we've had in almost 40 years in France, in Normandy. Now, I cannot send out these landings, these craft, with our ships with such terrible weather. So as I say, I put a hold on it for 24 hours. And then I got this message from our weathermen, from a British officer, and here was the message dated June 5, 1944. Weather is much better this morning. So this helped me to make the decision. Without this information, and by the way, a lot of this came from a station in Ireland. Yeah. The Irish are always there. This is free Ireland, of course. And that was sent to headquarters in England and then sent to my headquarters in Portsmouth. So, with that in mind, I had to make the decision. Now, we also intend to have the 101st Airborne to drop their paratroopers in this area here at Saint-Mary-Glisse. These are going to be the Pathfinders. I want these roads secured because we're going to swing up some of the men in their units and take Cherbourg. Now, here is Cherbourg here, right in this area here, in the peninsula. We need that because that's a port. And we're going to be sending our all kinds of information and all kinds of food and ammunition unloading in this area here. So we have to clear this area of Germans. And we finally did. So this area here is very important. And without this, now here was a major problem with this area in this particular spot at Saint-Mary-Glisse. It's a little small town in France near Normandy. The Germans have flooded this area, and they have put in 10-foot, 25-foot spikes. So when the paratroopers come in, they're in very bad shape. We're going to have casualties. I know we are. Now, Lee Mallory thinks we're going to have 60 to 70% casualties with our paratroopers. Now, that's another decision that I have to make. Should I send in the troopers, the paratroopers, the jumpers as they're called? I have no choice. This area has to be cleared. I have to send in the jumpers to clear it. And they'll go in at about 0100 hours on June 6th if I make the decision to go. Now, I took a look at the weather. Oh, yes, still raining, cloudy, overcast. But there's a clearance coming. Wow. So that information was so important for me to make the decision. So, just looking back at the map again, I wish I didn't have to send men out. Many will die. Many will be injured. Many will be lost. Some will be captured. But there's no other way, is there? No other way. This was the longest 20 seconds in history, wasn't it? I don't like it, but I know the order must be given. Okay, let's go. So with that command, I ordered the invasion of France and the liberation of Europe. And now it was up to the troops. There's nothing more I could do. I just had to wait and wait it out. And I sent out a command to land, sea, and air. This was all on the air, open air, and I also had sent this to all the commanders on ships, on air, and on sea. Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Force. Soldiers, sailors, airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark on the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people march with you, and march with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts. You will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and the security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. They will fight savagely. But this is the year 1944. Much has happened since the Nazi triumphs of 1940-41. The United Nations have inflicted upon the Germans great defeats in open battle, man to man. Our air offensive has seriously reduced their strengths in the air and their capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together in victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking. And later on in the day, on June 6, 1944, after we made a bridgehead and we had secured the landings, I announced this: Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Force, June 6, 1944. People of Western Europe, a landing was made this morning on the coast of Normandy in France. This landing is a concerted United Nations effort made in conjunction with our great Russian allies. While this landing may not have taken place in your area, the hour of your liberation is approaching. And then I wrote another speech which was never given. In the event that Normandy failed, I would take full responsibility. My career would have been over. This short speech was never given because we won. We won Normandy at great costs. June 6, 1944, Supreme Allied Expeditionary Force, Supreme Commander, Allied Expeditionary Force. Our landings in the Cherbourg-Havre area have failed to gain a satisfactory foothold, and I have withdrawn the troops. My decision to attack at this time was based upon the best information available. The troops, the air, and the Navy did all that bravery and devotion to duty could do. If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone. And the rest is history. Thank you. I get a little emotional there. Why not? Wow. Any questions? Yes.
Were there any Polish troops embedded with the British?
Yes, there were. Yeah. In fact, they were also flying the Spitfires in the Battle of Britain. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I'd like to point out something to you. It's very crucial here. Now, Rommel, Field Marshal Rommel, he wanted the Tiger tanks, which were the best tanks available, but they broke down a lot. But he wanted the tanks up on the beachhead to drive the Allies back into the sea. But Field Marshal Rundstedt said, no, I want them 10 miles in. Let's get the Allies, the Americans, come in, and then we're going to hit them. They couldn't make a decision. So guess who took over? The man called Hitler. Adolf took over. He said, I'm in charge. So he goes to sleep. He takes a sleeping pill, and they finally wake him up at 10 o'clock. But the Allies are ashore. Aren't you glad he took his sleeping pill? I just wonder what would have happened had he not taken the pill. Wow. Well, of course, it's too late. The landings are coming here. Even Hitler felt that the landings were going to take place at the Pas-de-Calais, that this was a diversion. Was he ever wrong? There's a great story here about the Rangers coming at Pointe du Hoc, this area up here. Now, in 1990, I was at the famous museum in New Orleans, which is now called the D-Day Museum. And I met, it was an opening, big event, and I met one of the Rangers there. And I recognized him as he was giving his introduction previous to previous day, so we wound up at the same hotel. Wow. So now we're having breakfast, and I recognized him. So I went up to him. I said, excuse me, Mr. LaBelle, Bud LaBelle. I said, may I sit with you? I was a little forceful, but hey, what an opportunity here. And he said, sure, sit down, have some breakfast. You bet. I said, sir, tell me about what you did. So he climbs up with his buddies, the Rangers, and we get to the top, and there's no gunfire. Remember now, this is 5 to 6 hours before the landings. So while he's climbing up, he's hit in the side. It's a flesh wound. But that doesn't stop Bud. He continues to climb up with his Rangers. They get on top, and they can't. So they get into a forestry area about a half a mile in, 88s were the huge bazookas, not bazookas, but the 88s howitzers. They called them that because they could be raised and lowered. And they were the best weapon in the war, the 88s. So what did they do? They take out these thermite bombs that they had attached to them, and they put it in the breech of the gun, pull the pin, and there's no noise. It just and melts the breech, so they couldn't fire anymore. Now the question is, where are the Germans? Where are they at? They're over to the side, about a half a mile in, having breakfast. Wow. Now, of course, there was still machine gun fire as our troops were landing. No question about it. On the first wave, we lost almost 3,000. When all the waves had come in, there were about 3 waves. The total killed could have been up to 10,000. But as the second and third waves were coming in, there was less gunfire because we were stopping them. And we were stuck on the beach. And one of the commanders said, hell no. You want to die? Why don't you die off the beach? So let's go in. So we got them out because they were pinned down. So when you think about this great event in history and how we're free today, I can't even come close, not a half, not a third, not whatever, to fill these men who died on the shores here. And the support they had from their wives, you bet. You ladies did a lot. And of course the nurses who were there to take care of the wounded. Wow. Is there anybody here who was a nurse at this time during World War II? Anybody here? Are there any of those that served in World War II? Raise your hand. What did you do? You were. And where was that at? In London or where? In Washington. Did you really? Wow.
Take turns at delivering it to the admiral.
Oh, wow.
When it became my turn, I thought, well, he'll send out an assistant. But he came out himself to thank all of us who had helped out.
Do you remember his name? Mm.
Probably have it somewhere.
Well, how great for you to serve our country. Thank you for serving. Wow. Well, how wonderful. And sir, were you during World War II? I'm sorry?
He was in the Pacific.
You were in the Pacific? Uh-huh. What?
Pacific Ocean.
Uh-huh. Well, thank you for serving and helping us. You helped the general a lot. Oh, you were, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Yeah, I understand, thank you. What is your name, sir? Frank. Thank you, Frank, for what you've done.
Folks, let me interrupt just for a moment. Gloria, would you please repeat what you were saying about what you were doing in Washington with the microphone so we can all hear you?
Oh, I was serving with the Navy Waves at the Weather Central preparing the weather map, and the first one of the day went to the Admiral. And we take turns being sent there. And when I went, I expected one of his attendants to meet me, but out came the Admiral himself to thank all of us
Right
who
now.
had volunteered.
Yes.
So I'll never forget that one.
You got it?
Thank you.
Here, I'll take this. Oh, well, how wonderful for that, for you to do that. Okay, thanks. You remember Rosie the Riveter? Remember that? Huh? How many here bought war bonds? Remember the war bonds? Yes. And stamps. Rationing. Remember the rationing? Sugar and flour and beef. Oh my. And gasoline. Oh gosh. Shoes. What a different time that was. But isn't it great that we can review this and remember it? Because we'll never forget it. I want the younger people to know this. That's where they need to know it. And I tried to do that And I did do that. But now I find such a reward to be with you and to share this, because you've lived it. And it reinforces my great respect and love for you and for our country and the men who died to make it free. Wow. I've got a short film here on D-Day. It's the real thing, no special effects, black and white, from the United States Navy. I think you'll like it. It's not long, but boy, does it ever have a kicker to it. Oh, okay. That was a little heavy there for you. Yes.
An aside, you want to point to Huck?
Yes.
One of the commanders on one of those landing craft ended up retiring as a two-star general.
Yes.
And was the president of Texas A&M.
Oh. Do you remember his name?
Rudder.
Oh, yes. Rudder. Oh, yes. Oh, he was very important for the landings. And for the, wasn't he also with Band of Brothers? Remember the famous movie that came out, HBO?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Very important. Oh, wonderful. Did you know him?
I'm at him.
You did.
At
Oh.
A&M, not at work.
I understand. But what an honor that was for you. Oh, wow. Great. Say, everybody, let's take a look at the film. You know, if you have to leave for any reason, please do. All right? I'm so glad we're going to take a group picture when we finish. I'm going to stand in with you and we'll get a picture of all of you. All right? So let's see the film. Yes, sir. About 20 minutes. Oh, listen to that music. You know where that's from, don't you? Victory at Sea. Can you turn it up? Oh, yes.
And now, Killers and the Kill.
Yes, sir. I understand. Thank you for coming.
The U-boat will decide the outcome of the war.
That's not it. That's not it.
This is what Hitler is telling the Germans as his underwater sailors harvest victory after victory in the Battle of the Atlantic.
That's not it.
The realities support him in mid-1943. The massacre by German submarines is costing the American republics and the British Empire millions of dollars. Thousands of Allied sailors are dead.
Everybody, we just have to restart it. That was the wrong one that we had there. So just get a minute. Okay, we're going to restart. And we just need the one. That's not it.
D-Day?
Was that D-Day?
Yeah, that was D-Day.
I didn't think that was D-Day.
Yeah, that was the one that showed up as D-Day. Can you?
Honest to God, I didn't think that was it.
See? D-Day.
Yeah.
That's the one we had it on.
Let's try it again.
Unless it was a different DVD.
No, that's it. That's the same one. I've used it all the time.
Okay.
But let's see what the titles come up.
You have to hit menu. Right there, it got the menu.
Oh, good. Now we're going to get
Yeah,
it.
see, I went down to
Number
line
15.
Yeah,
Let's try it again.
unless it
That's it, right
went
there.
through, I mean,
That's it. Let's see when it plays it.
I don't know. It's almost like you paused it. Huh.
Can you bring it down to 15?
Well, it was on 15 when I did.
Was it?
Let's open it again.
Well, it should play again.
Now it's totally freezing up, it seems like. Okay, here.
Let's try it again. Take it out and put it back in. Wow. Wow. Well, that's. Can you eject it? Can you eject?
I have to reboot the machine.
Okay. All right. Hmm.
I don't see anything going bad. Brand new.
That's a lot of equipment there. All right, let's take the whole thing out. Pull it out. Okay. Back in. Yeah. All right, everybody, we're trying to fix this glitch. Morning. That's it. We'll go down to 15. Play.
It's freezing at that point.
Wow. Well, and if it doesn't, we can play the next one, because I think what we had was,
It's, no, the whole DVD is
oh,
frozen.
oh, it
We
is?
won't be playing the DVD at all.
oh, really?
That's bizarre, because it was,
Well, if it doesn't, it doesn't. No disc. Okay.
Stop at 14,
15, there it is. Doesn't want to play.
it doesn't want to play.
Well, everybody, thanks. Everybody, we're, for some reason, Victory at Sea doesn't want to play. What I can do is maybe get another one, and sometime in the future, or I can get it to Tracy, and you can come back and just watch it yourself here if you'd like. Because there's a lot of great scenes in there of General Eisenhower and everybody. Mamie, can you take this for us here? And let's see, or Tracy, let's see, where is the, here we are, right here. So what I'm going to do, everybody, I'm going to stand behind you, all right? And we'll get a picture of everyone here,
Okay, hold on right there for a minute, I have to turn lights off.
all right?
turn the lights off.
Oh, good, we need a lot of light.
Wait, they'll all come back up, if I turn them all the way out.
Okay,
Here's the only issue with the photo, you
Yes.
cannot publish it anywhere.
no, I won't. I'll just send it to you, and,
Okay.
okay? Is that all right?
Well, if you want to be in a picture with Professor Jana, then we can set something up, otherwise,
Okay,
since we can't get the movie stars.
well, let me just get this set up then, okay? Unless you have your camera with you,
I do.
Tracy?
Yeah, I'll take, okay. Might be easier for people to stay in their seats.
Right. Does everyone want to be in the picture? If you don't, you can just step aside then maybe. All right? And Tracy will take with her camera.
So if you'll come back behind
Right.
your seats.
That's
have a
right.
seat,
How are you?
or a stand. For us.
Just for you. All right? Let me get my hat.
Never gonna get everybody in.
Well, you know, we'll do one side at a time.
Okay.
That's right. We'll do a side at a time. Thanks. Okay.
Okay. So
Here
now
we
we're
go.
over there by
Okay,
yourself.
here we go. Now, you'll be with General Eisenhower.
Okay, can you go over that way?
You bet. We'll get it right. Oops.
Side first.
Ouch.
All right.
Right on this side here.
Big smiles, everyone. There we go.
All right, then
All
let's.
right, now if you'll just go on that side.
You're right. And then we might take some a little closer because we're so far away. Yeah.
And there we go. Awesome, thank you.
All right. Well, everybody, I'm sorry about that. But I will get, I'll get another one. They're easy to get. And I'll bring it back to Tracy. I'll drop it by, and sometime when you have some free time, if you want to come and watch this, it would be really great. My next program is the battle at Pearl Harbor.
I can't hear you.
Can't hear me.
I don't have your thing on anymore.
Oh gosh. Hello. My next program is the battle at Pearl Harbor. And I have an actual flag that was flown atop the USS Arizona on the 50th anniversary. Yes.
We have a resident here who was there.
Oh, wow. Oh, we hope they'll come, of course.
Did anyone share that the Coast Guard hit the Arizona and it is currently closed?
Yes.
Yes, they don't tell everybody that, but they actually, the Coast Guard hit the memorial and it is closed because it is leaking now. Yeah. Recently, like within the last 2 months or so.
That's right. They're working on it.
Thank you, Mr. Jana. We
But
appreciate
thank you
it
so
very
much.
Thank
Thanks.
you very much.
Thank you. Hope to see you again in Pearl Harbor. Have a great afternoon and lots of history.
Thank you. Thank you very much.